every single year. There is a sleeper that pops out of nowhere and you never saw it coming unless you listen to this podcast. So part 2, rookie sleepers that you need to know about right now. Chev, we're going to start off with you. Chase Brown from the University of Illinois.
Yeah, Chase Brown, man. I really love what he brings. I mean, he's got great vision and a lot of good patience. He waits for the holes to open up. And when he sees that, he uses an acceleration to get through those. And, one thing I like most about him is just his body contact. His contact balance. Like, the guy finds a way to just bounce off tacklers, even though he's not the biggest running back. He's a guy that uses his height to his advantage. He stays low, bounces off those, and continues to keep his feet churning, which I know Mike likes a lot. And, the good thing is his hands. He's got good hands as well. He might not have the best route running, but this is a guy that we can count on to catch passes out of the backfield moving forward. He really is a guy that opened up a lot for Illinois this last year. I mean, Illinois is not known for football, really, it seems like these days. I mean, they just have not had very good running back talent. I think the last one I can remember is like Rashard Mendenhall, and that was a long, long time ago.
It was very long time ago.
He's produced well. And like I said, his patience, his vision, his contact balance, his hands, those are all things that I really love about Chase Brown. He's a guy that, maybe didn't have the best college production, but in the last 2 seasons, I mean, he had a really good end of his years. I mean, he had a great college career for a guy from Illinois. I mean, he has way better talent going against him than people give him credit. Now, if you're in the Big 12, yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit, but the Big 10 is no slouch. I mean, those guys are always in the top 4 teams. Like, you have your SEC and you have your Big 10, it seems like. So those are the people that are saying that, I would advise you to watch some film, because Chase Brown shows that he plays against a lot of good talent.
The only rusher in Illinois history to rush for 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons too was Chase Brown. I like Chase Brown a lot too. I don't think that Chase Brown is going to be a running back 1 at any point in his career. But if he's a backup to a notable running back who has an injury history, I'm definitely paying attention to Chase Brown for sure. He does everything well. Chev, he pretty much hit the nail on the head there. But Nate, what are your thoughts on Chase Brown?
Yeah, I like Chase Brown. I agree. I don't think he has that top upside that we're looking for, like with other running backs. But I think he gives us a safe floor. And he's a guy that I think is going to make it into the NFL. I think he's probably an early day 3 pick. I think there's a chance he raises up into the 3rd round. But I think he's more of an early 4th round pick for me, because while he's good, I think he lacks the elite traits. I don't think he's a tremendous receiver. I don't think he's tremendously athletic either. I think he's a good athlete, but I think he kind of lacks that upside that we see with these special guys that can, just make us really excited to watch him, really.
Yeah.
Chase Brown, not that he's boring to watch, but I think he kind of just lacks that special factor that it takes to be really good at the NFL.
He's more technical, I feel like.
Yeah. I think he's a very good runner. I think he's very good with his vision and his patience. I think he takes what's given to him and sometimes a little more, but he's not going to miss those opportunities very often.
He's a guy who's going to be a really good NFL player. And I think he, unlike Roschon Johnson, he's a bit more dynamic, decent receiver too. Over 500 receiving yards in his career at Illinois. Kenny McIntosh. I don't know if it's Mac or McIntosh. And he's from Georgia. So he's going to get that Georgia back bump as they always do. 5'11", 210. I like this dude. I actually like him quite a bit, to be honest with you. I think he has really good vision, good decision making. He doesn't run into defenders or anything like that. And what's really going to get him paid in the NFL is his receiving ability. Now, there's a guy on this list who we're going to get to a little bit later that I like a little bit better as a receiving back. But Kenny McIntosh is pretty damn good. Well, Mike, why couldn't he get on the field at Georgia? Well, because Georgia is really freaking good. And some of the guys that they had ahead of him were better collegiate running backs than Kenny McIntosh was. We've seen it before. Guys that get their chance to get in the NFL, and they're actually really freaking good. I think that could be the case. Best case scenario for him is if he is not a running back 1 on a team, if he's a backup and he gets sprinkled into the rotation, I think as a PPR back, he could have like a Devin Singletary type ceiling. Nate's agreeing with me, shaking his head no, but agreeing with me. Because I'm right, right?
I mean, I have Kenny McIntosh graded out to be kind of a 4th round pick. I think he has that receiving upside, and I like that receiving upside. I don't think he's an incredible receiver. I think he is good, not great. I don't think he's a great runner either. I think he's athletic. Don't think he's very powerful. So when you mix all that together and with the production that he had in college, just kind of arrives at a fourth round pick for me. But, that's not saying he's a bad player. A 4th round pick is still a pretty decent player. It might not be the RB1, RB2 in your fantasy lineup, but I think Kenny McIntosh can play that PPR role. And because he has that receiving upside, it gives him a little bit more upside in fantasy football. It's going to depend on the situation, because once you get into day 3 draft capital, if that's what he ends up with, it becomes very situational. If he has an open path to being that 3rd down running back, I'm interested in Kenny McIntosh. If he doesn't, and he's going to have to jump over other people to get there, I'm probably going to be out.
Yeah, I kind of have him on that teeter-totter of 3rd, 4th round pick, I think, right now. And, there's a lot of times where I see him just getting tackled by the safety, not putting really a move on him to get past him and get that touchdown speed going. I don't know if he's the fastest running back either. He has a good burst, but, that kind of worries me. Like, if you don't have that home run speed to get to the end zone and we're picking you 3rd, 4th round, like, I don't know what your fantasy value is going to look like in the NFL. I mean, I think there's some good traits in the passing game. I think he could do some damage there, but running the football, I'm not really sold on him quite yet. Obviously, we have a lot more time to go, but yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys. Like, he's good, but also there's things I want to see better. I want to see better moving forward.
Yeah, I think, he has some decent agility and change of direction, but I think he really excels when he is a straight line runner.
Yep.
That's when his burst really shows up. I don't think he has the greatest vision. So I think when he has a path, he can take advantage of it and get down the field. But I don't think he's a guy that's going to create a lot of yards by himself.
Yeah.
And when you're throwing screens, you want a guy that can create yards. I'm not sure how many yards Kenny McIntosh is going to create that aren't given to him. Now, if he gets the blocking like he did at Georgia, yeah, he can take advantage of that and get down the field. But I worry about what's going to happen when he's not in such a great situation.
Well, let's move on and let's talk about a guy the community's kind of all over the place about, and that is SMU wide receiver Rashee Rice, 6 foot, 200 pounds. Nate, you kick it off for me.
Rashee Rice, how about him? I was watching him. He's not 6'3" like he was listed at the college website. He's actually 6 foot, but he's 200 pounds, so he's got some good thickness to his frame. He's a pretty physical guy. He's strong. He's not scared of contact at all. He is more than willing to put his head down and ram himself into 4 defenders, if that's what it takes to get the extra 2 yards that he's going to get. He's good with the contested catches. He's like I said, he's physical, so he uses that to his advantage at the catch point. He has pretty good body control. He tracks the ball well over his shoulder. He can make some pretty incredible catches. I worry about the separation that he creates or lack thereof.
Yeah.
And maybe 2 years ago, I would have loved Rashee Rice because I didn't think that you needed to create so much separation if you were able to create, win those contested catch situations. And he's a decent route runner, but I think he lacks the elite athleticism. If he had that, I would be more willing to, overlook the separation issues. But I don't think he's an incredible athlete. So he's not going to create a lot of yards after the catch. He's not going to create a lot of separation. So outside of maybe if this guy's Michael Gallup, that's fine. But just let's that's kind of my expectation. I don't expect Rashee Rice to go out there and become a top 15, 20 wide receiver. I think with Rashee Rice, you're getting what I have graded out to be a 3rd round pick and a guy that can play the X receiver position for a team, make some plays down the field, win some first downs, and overall maybe be a flex on a semi-weekly basis. That's kind of what I'm at with Rashee Rice.
I graded him out as a 4th round pick. Slow off the line, can't separate, not fast.
Yeah.
Not much after the catch. And I noticed too, a lot of times when he does have the ball in his hand, he's trying to make a move. The ball just hangs down real low. And, at SMU, when you're playing against Lamar College, that might be fine. But in the NFL, playing against the San Francisco 49ers, that's going to be a fumble.
Yeah.
Right?
I saw a couple fumbles on film.
Yeah, there was.
If Rashee Rice is chilling at the 307, 308, yep. But I'm not going to overdraft this guy. There's other guys that I'd rather take a chance on. Chev, your thoughts on Rashee?
Yeah, and I mean, Nate brings up a good point. Like 2 years ago, we would Probably love this guy, a Des Bryant kind of player that, goes up and makes incredible plays. He can just track the ball well and make good contested catches. But we realize, those guys we can't always count on. They're not the most reliable guys that we can put in our rosters. And I'm in the same boat as you guys. Like, I put happy feet on routes, which helps the defenders. I just see them sticking to him so easily because he really isn't being decisive with what he wants to do. He's letting them know exactly what I'm doing. And a lot of the times it's his routes just running outside and hoping his quarterback throws one up to him. Like, I don't see too much route running and burst off the line that I want to see, especially with a guy from SMU. I'm not saying that they don't have the best talent, but I want to see more when I'm watching these guys. I want to see them dominate the teams that they're playing against, and I just do not see that with Rashee Rice at the moment. It's the route running for me. It just seems lazy at points, and that's not going to give me any fantasy points moving forward. And the ball was on the turf a good amount. There was games where 2 fumbles, 1 fumble. Like, it's just not for me right now. I think he does have some athletic traits to make big plays, and that will get him shooting up boards. But the route running is just not going to work in the NFL.
Let's move on to our next guy, and that is Oklahoma running back Eric Gray. 5'9", and people say 5'9" is not good enough. Short kings stand up, but he is a stout 210 pounds. Look, Eric Gray played at Tennessee for a couple years, for 2 years. Then he transferred to Oklahoma last year. That looked like it was going to be a disaster. Then he came back for his senior year, and he amassed 1,366 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns and 229 receiving yards on 33 catches. No touchdowns through the air. However, I am a huge fan of Eric Gray. I have him graded out as a 3rd-round pick, Nate. Am I wilding? Or I think that's a great spot for Eric Gray. You know what? I care what I say here because I like Eric Gray. I like a good deal. I think he's really physical, strong runner, decisive, elusive, but he just uses strength to get away from people. He has a really good mix of power, speed, agility, elusiveness, and vision. I like everything he brings to the table. I think he was a 3rd-round pick. He's a super good value for any team. I think he's good enough to supplant an aging veteran on a team. Like, if he got drafted to the Dallas Cowboys, he could have a Tony Pollard-esque role in that offense right away, especially with Ezekiel Elliott not looking like the Ezekiel Elliott that we know and love to hate in the past. I don't want to see him go to a convoluted place like Miami or San Francisco or New England, or Buffalo tries to throw another mid-round draft pick on running back. Just draft a running back in the 1st round and just get it over with. Please, by all means, put us out of our misery. So that's what I think. I like Eric Gray. A really good deal. Should be on your radar. Nate, I think you disagree with me on some of this, which is fine. You're allowed to be wrong.
So I have Eric Gray graded out right on the line of 3rd and 4th round pick. And
I have him fall.
I'm pretty good with that because I like a lot of his traits. He's quick. He's a good pass catcher. He's very patient with his running, and I love that. I love a good patient runner.
Yep.
So I like that about Eric Gray. I don't think he's as powerful as maybe we're hoping that he is. He's definitely a solid guy, 5'9", 210, but I don't know if he brings the power that you're going to really need at the NFL level. I mean, he's decent at it, but he's not going to make a difference with it. And all that together, I see Chase Edmonds. And hey, Chase Edmonds on the Arizona Cardinals was a lot of fun. Chase Edmonds on the Miami Dolphins, maybe not so much fun, but on the Arizona Cardinals, fun. And I think Eric Gray, depending on the situation he goes to, could easily be lost in the mix. But at the same time, I think he could absolutely have a role like Chase Edmonds did in Arizona when Kenyon Drake was there, when James Conner was there. I think he can do that kind of thing.
Chev, anything to add to my favorite running back? By the way, Bob has him graded higher. He has him graded as a 2nd-round pick.
Bob loves Eric Gray, and he was very sad when I said Chase Edmonds.
Right? Hard hands. Do it. How do I?
You're backwards, number 1.
That looks good.
There you go.
I had to practice.
You'll get there. I like Eric. I do like Eric Gray, though. I think you actually have him as a 2nd-round pick as well. It looks like 6.64, so that's right up there.
2nd-round pick?
2nd round.
Michael
3rd round. My bad. Oh, yeah. Then me and Bob, we know what's up.
Yeah, see, y'all are the smart ones, apparently.
Me and Chev are the same place, though.
Yeah, we're about third, fourth round. I do like what he brings. I think he has a lot of versatility to where he's able to juke players out. And then a lot of it, too, for me, I like is like he waits almost to like the last second to set up defenders.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, he's not trying to do too much early on. He waits, sees what he's going to get, and then he puts on a move, which I really do like. I think he is shifty. He's got good hands out of the backfield. And like Nate, I don't think he's super physical. I think he uses his shiftiness more, which I think he's just bumping off contact at that point, which is it's great. He's not taking a lot of big hits, it seems like. You know, I just don't see the speed that I want to see either. He's a shifty guy, but the speed to me is just isn't there. I just don't see him being a guy that is going to command a backfield. Chase Edmonds is probably pretty close. I wrote down Jaylen Warren. If he got a Jaylen Warren type role, I would be pretty happy with that.
Love Jaylen Warren so much.
Yeah, so I mean that would be good for him to be a number 2 in an offense where he doesn't have to be the dude, doesn't have to run in between tackles a lot, can just be a guy that gets space and uses that versatility really well. And he's good with the ball in his hand and going through the tackles. I think he's got incredible patience and vision to see what's going in front of him. And that I do like that about him. I just don't know how well his speed and whatnot is going to transition and the physicality. I think he has a little bit. He uses it when he needs to, but it's going to be really, really physical when he gets to the NFL, and I just don't know how well he'll deal with that.
Chev, you talk about his patience, his vision. I talked about how much I love his patience. You talk about how he sets up defenders to cut it upfield. I think Eric Gray, you know, I'm not one to just say, hey, throw every running back into the 49ers Shanahan system, but Eric Gray is another guy that fits that one cut.
Oh, you're going to do it anyway.
Well, you have guys that play, you know, one cut style. They go outside, they, you know, get behind the tackle, and then they wait for the opening and get up. And, you know, Eric Gray does it really, really well. And that's what he did this year. That's why he produced so well this year at Oklahoma, despite Oklahoma really not looking that great, is he had that patience where he kept the linebacker to the point where the linebacker is on the outside shoulder of the tackle, and Eric Gray still has the ability to shift up the field, get inside the tackle, and get those 6-8 yards with his acceleration. I think he has great burst, but I do question the long speed as well, like Chev said.
Yeah. But let's look at our last prospect today and the next running back in the Kyle Shanahan system as per Nate, and that's tight end Luke Musgrave out of Oregon State. Oh, wait, no, he's not a running back. Luke Musgrave from Oregon State. Shocker. He might be my number 2 tight end in the class right now. And I know a lot of people are saying Dalton Kincaid, and I love Dalton Kincaid. Do not get me wrong. I think he is lit. Someone tell me if I use that word right.
Sounded good.
It's
good.
okay. It's okay.
All right, moving on. I like him a lot. Again, we're talking about a collegiate tight end, not named Kyle Pitts. So he has enough speed, nothing spectacular. Physical, surprisingly athletic for his frame. But what I will say is this: he has this uncanny ability when he releases off the line of scrimmage. You know, you're just running the drag route, like right along the line there. He just like dips down and gets lost in the coverage, and he gets open. And I've seen him make some really athletic over the shoulder catches, you know, tracking the ball, but yet reaching out. And just, he makes some really good catches. He's just really solid and dependable. But I think given some time in an NFL offense, I think he could be something. You know, I tend to find these guys every year. I don't know how. The Greg Dulciches, Daniel Bellingers. He's my next guy. Keep your eyes on Sam Laporta too. We'll be talking about him at some point. Although Nate, Sam Laporta might not be as under the radar as we thought. But if you want to know more about that, slide on over to Patreon. Might be my tight end 2 in the class as of right now. Still more scouting to be done, of course.
Yeah, you get 2 games from this year. And this is actually a guy I was looking at in Devy during the season because, you know, you're looking for a tight end that could just do anything in Devy, it seems like. And this guy was somebody I was looking at. And then he got injured and just never came back. So I couldn't stash him because I didn't have enough roster space for him. But he's a guy that he does have some talent. I mean, I don't see him being a big yak guy. I see him just being a catch and kind of get down, be hit and go down kind of guy. But I think there is some talent there. I mean, you see some decent route running with him. I honestly like to wait to look at tight ends really in depth until after the draft. That way I can see them in drills, how they block. I mean, there's a lot of guys that you throw them blocking and they just don't know what they're doing. Like Jelani Woods last year, we saw the athletic ability he had in the film, and then we see that he can block as well. And that kind of transition to the NFL where he had a good season for a tight end. We don't see these tight ends just blow up right away. You got to wait a few years. So being patient with these guys. I do like Luke Musgrave, though. I think he does have some talent. I mean, when they needed a big play, they threw the ball to him, and he made some big plays down the field as well. He's not just a short route guy. He can catch deep passes as well. So I do like him. I think he's got a lot of talent. I got to see a little bit more, though. I look forward to watching the combine and seeing kind of how he produces with those guys, how he interacts with those guys, and what he can do there.
One last thing to add before Nate talks about him. There were his physicality was a little inconsistent. I did see him get pushed around a little bit, sometimes here and there. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to push around in the Pac-12, you're going to get pushed around in the NFL. So he's got to shore that up a little bit. I don't know if it's a mechanics thing with blocking or whatever it is. Nate, tell me why I'm correct to have him as my tight end 2 in the class.
The Pac-12 is as good as it's ever been. And I believe the Pac-12 is actually the third best conference in college football right now. Luke Musgrave, he looked really good this year in the 2 games he played. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see him play in many more games after that. But I like what he brings to the table. You know, he's rather athletic. He's got a good frame, long arms. Really helps him win the catch point, contested catches. Like we talked about already, the ability to track the ball, make the catch over his shoulder down the sideline. Obviously, a really good pass catching tight end. I think he's going to be valuable in fantasy football. I think he's going to be a guy I'm targeting in the 3rd round. I think he gets day 2 draft capital. I have him graded out currently at a late 2nd, early 3rd round pick in the NFL draft. So I do think he gets that day 2 draft capital. Some people have him in the top 50 on their big boards. So he's probably looking at 2nd round draft capital as long as he tests well at the NFL draft. He's a guy I'm definitely going to have my eye on. I think he could be a similar player to like Greg Dulcich with his ability to get open and find space.